The plasma bolt punched through the palace wall 3 meters from Empress Valenthia's head. She didn't flinch. She'd stopped flinching 6 hours ago when the rebellion breached the outer districts. Her royal guards, the elite Corthian shield, had vanished into the smoke 20 minutes earlier. 200 warriors bred for combat across 4 generations, gone. Their oath-marked armor lay scattered in the throne room like discarded shells. Only one figure remained. Corporal Jake Morrison stood between the Empress and the shattered entrance, a human combat rifle pressed tight against his shoulder. His helmet visor glowed red with targeting data. Beyond the archway, rebel forces poured through the gardens like poison through veins. "You should run," Valenthia said. Her voice carried the harmonic resonance of her species, but exhaustion dulled its usual command. "Not really my style, ma'am." A flashbang detonated in the corridor. Morrison fired 3 rounds without blinking. Someone screamed. The shooting stopped for exactly 4 seconds. Valenthia's silver blood dripped from a gash across her temple. The Corthian crown, a living organism bonded to her nervous system, pulsed with distress signals her body could barely suppress. She was dying slowly. The crown knew it. The palace knew it. The rebels definitely knew it. "I'm not worth this," she said. Morrison reloaded without looking. "Yeah, you are. I'm a failed ruler. My people are murdering each other in my name. Your people are scared." Difference. Explosions rocked the eastern wing. The temperature spiked as fire reached the oxygen recyclers. They had maybe 30 minutes before the air turned toxic. Morrison tapped his wrist display. No extraction signal. No allied forces. No backup. The human coalition fleet was 8 days away at maximum burn. The distress beacon he'd activated would reach them far too late. He knew the math. Valenthia knew he knew. "Why?" she asked. "Why what?" "Why stay? Your contract expired. You owe me nothing. You could have left with the others." Morrison adjusted his stance as movement flickered in the smoke. "False alarm. Just debris falling. I signed up to protect you," he said. "Contract's got nothing to do with it. That's irrational." "Probably." Another plasma bolt. This one closer. Morrison returned fire, his shots precise and economical. A body hit the marble floor with a wet thud. Valenthia felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. Gratitude, yes, but something sharper. Humans were supposed to be practical, mercenary, interested only in profit and survival. Every cultural briefing said so. Every Corthian assessment agreed. Yet here stood Morrison, alone against an army, defending a monarch whose own species had abandoned her. "I don't understand your kind," she said quietly. Morrison smiled without turning. "Yeah, we get that a lot." The palace AI announced imminent structural failure in 17 zones. The rebels were regrouping. Morrison checked his ammunition count and swore under his breath. Then he planted his boots wider and raised his rifle. "All right, then," he said. "Let's make this interesting." The throne room had 3 entrances. Morrison sealed, 2 with sustained plasma fire that melted the door frames into slag. The third, the grand archway facing the garden, remained open. He wanted them funneled, predictable, desperate. "How many rounds do you have left?" Valenthia asked. "Enough? That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters." The Empress dragged herself behind a toppled column. Her legs weren't working correctly. The crown's distress was affecting her motor control, shutting down non-essential systems to preserve her brain. She had hours at most. Morrison glanced back. His expression hardened. "You need medical attention. I need a miracle. Working on it." The rebels tested the choke point with a drone. Morrison shot it out of the air before it cleared the archway. Shrapnel rained across marble that had stood for 6,000 years. Valenthia's translator implant crackled. A voice boomed through the palace speakers. Empress, this is Commander Thex. Surrender yourself, and the human dies quickly. Resist, and we'll make it last days.
Morrison snorted.
Creative guy. He led my planetary defense corps, Valenthia said. I promoted him myself. How's that feel? Like drowning. Morrison triggered a smoke grenade and rolled it through the archway. White fog billowed into the garden. He fired blind into specific coordinates, his helmet tracking heat signatures through the haze. 2 bodies dropped. You've studied our tactics, Valenthia observed. Studied everything about Korthia. Architecture, military doctrine, palace layout. Figured if I was taking the job, I should do it right. Most humans don't bother. Most humans are idiots. A rocket screamed through the smoke. Morrison dove, tackled Valenthia, and rolled them both behind the throne's base. The explosion obliterated the column she'd been hiding behind. Stone fragments peppered Morrison's back armor. He grunted but didn't stop moving. You're injured, Valenthia said. I've had worse. When? Tuesdays, usually. Despite everything, she almost laughed. The sound died as gunfire intensified. The rebels were committing now. Full assault. Morrison counted at least 40 heat signatures advancing through the smoke. He pulled a device from his belt. Valenthia recognized it. A human dead man's switch. If his heart stopped, the plasma charges he'd planted throughout the throne room would detonate simultaneously. You'll kill us both, she said. I'll kill them. You'll have a chance. That's insane. That's human. Morrison's rifle barked rhythmically. Each shot found flesh. His accuracy was inhuman, almost mechanical. But his breathing stayed calm, controlled. He wasn't panicking, wasn't rushing, just working the problem like a math equation written in blood. A Korthian warrior breached the smoke, mandibles spread in a war scream. Morrison put 2 rounds through his throat and kicked the corpse back into the advancing line. The message was clear. Every meter cost blood. Why do humans do this? Valenthia asked. Sacrifice yourselves for lost causes? Morrison ejected a spent magazine. It's not lost till I'm dead. You will be, soon. Maybe, definitely. Still here, though? Thunder cracked overhead. The palace shields were failing. Rebel artillery was preparing to level the entire structure. Morrison checked his wrist display again. Still no extraction. Still no miracle. But his jaw tightened with something Valenthia couldn't identify. Determination, perhaps. Or stubbornness so profound it became transcendent. My father told me something once, Morrison said, firing 3 more rounds. He said humans don't kneel, not to kings, not to God, not to fear. We get knocked down, we stand back up. Every single time. Your father sounds foolish. He was. Died saving his squad on Proxima. Could have retreated. Didn't. And you inherited his stupidity. Morrison grinned, like a family heirloom. The rebels charged. 20 warriors flooded through the archway in coordinated waves. Morrison's rifle sang its electric song, and bodies crumpled like puppets with cut strings, but they kept coming. Valenthia watched this human, this improbable creature, hold a line that should have broken instantly. His species was younger than her breakfast. They'd only reached the stars 3 generations ago. They were soft-skinned and weak-boned, and died so easily, yet here one stood, alone against her empire's finest, and refused to yield. Something shifted in her understanding, something fundamental. Morrison's rifle clicked empty. He dropped it and drew his sidearm without hesitation. Now it gets interesting, he said. Morrison's sidearm held 12 rounds. He made each one count. The first 3 dropped rebels trying to flank left. The next 4 caught a demolitions expert, before he could arm his charges. The remaining 5 bought 10 seconds of breathing room. Then the weapon clicked empty. He drew his combat knife. "You can't be serious," Valentia said. "Dead serious." A Korthian warrior lunged through the smoke. Morrison sidestepped, drove the blade up under the chitin plates and twisted. The warrior collapsed. Morrison yanked the knife free and faced the next attacker. Valentia's crown pulsed urgent warnings. Her vision blurred. The throne room tilted sideways. She was losing consciousness. Her species didn't pass out gradually. They dropped like switches, flipping off. "Morrison," she whispered. He didn't turn. Couldn't. 3 rebels surrounded him now. He moved like water, like something that couldn't be pinned down. The knife flashed. Alien blood painted the marble in colors that shouldn't exist. But they were learning his patterns, adapting. One caught his wrist. Another slammed into his ribs. Morrison's armor cracked. He headbutted the first attacker, broke free, and stumbled backward. His back hit the throne. Nowhere left to retreat. Commander Thex emerged from the smoke. He stood 2 heads taller than Morrison, his ceremonial armor marked with honors Valentia herself had bestowed. His weapon aimed directly at Morrison's chest. "Brave," Thex said in the human language. "Stupid, but brave." Morrison spat blood. "You forgot handsome. Stand aside. This isn't your fight. Everything's my fight when I'm getting paid. Your contract ended." Morrison smiled through broken lips. "Then I'm doing this for free." Thex's finger tightened on the trigger. Valentia tried to scream a warning, but her voice wouldn't come. The crown was shutting her down completely now. Darkness crept from the edges of her vision. The last thing she saw was Morrison dropping his knife and raising his hands. Surrendering. No, not surrendering. Activating something on his wrist display. The Palace AI spoke with eerie calm. "Emergency protocol, Alpha 77 activated. Structural collapse imminent." Thex's eyes widened. "What did you do?" Morrison's grin turned feral. "I studied your architecture, remember? Found the load-bearing supports, planted charges. If I can't hold this room, nobody gets it. You'll die too. Yeah, probably." The floor trembled. Thex looked up as cracks spider-webbed across the ceiling. The ancient palace, built to last millennia, groaned like a dying beast. "You're insane," Thex breathed. "I'm human." "Same thing," Thex fired. Morrison twisted. The shot meant for his heart caught his shoulder instead. He went down hard, but his hand never left the detonator. 10 seconds, he gasped. "Leave or die. Choose fast." Thex hesitated. His warriors hesitated. Morrison's finger hovered over the trigger. 5 seconds. The rebels broke. Survival instinct overrode everything else. They scattered like insects before fire, trampling each other in their rush toward exits. Thex stood frozen for 1 heartbeat longer, then followed. Morrison waited until the throne room emptied. Then he released the detonator and collapsed. He'd been bluffing. The charges existed, yes, but they weren't armed. Not enough explosives, not enough time, just enough fear to make it believable. Humans were good at lying when it mattered. He crawled toward Valentia. She lay motionless behind the throne, her crown dim and failing. He pressed fingers against her throat, searching for the pulse point his research had identified. There, faint, fluttering. "Still with me, Your Majesty?" Her eyes opened to slits. "You lied." "Yep, effective. I have my moments." She tried to sit up. Failed. Morrison caught her before she fell. "They'll regroup," she said. "Return. Finish this." "Let them try." "Why do you care?" The question came out desperate now, raw. "Why does any of this matter to you?" Morrison looked at her, really looked, not at an empress, Not at an alien, just at someone who'd been abandoned by everyone she trusted. You gave me a job when Earth was desperate for allies, he said quietly. Paid triple the going rate. Treated human soldiers like equals when most species wouldn't let us guard their trash. You could have hired Korthian guards exclusively, but you didn't. You gave us a chance. Economics? Nothing more. Bull. You believed in us when nobody else did. That means something. Valenthia's crown flickered. I'm dying, Morrison. Not on my watch. You can't stop biology. Watch me. He activated his emergency beacon on a different frequency. Not coalition, not military, something else entirely. What are you doing? Valenthia asked. Morrison's expression turned dangerous. Calling in favors you don't know about. His wrist display lit with incoming transmissions, not from human ships, from somewhere closer. Much closer. Who did you contact? Valenthia demanded. Morrison's smile could have cut steel. Everyone you helped when nobody was watching. The first ship punched through Korthia's atmosphere 90 seconds later. Valenthia's failing sensors registered it as a Draxi Corsair, a species her empire had sheltered during their civil war. The second vessel materialized from quantum slip space, a Venturi medical frigate from the colony she'd personally defended against pirates. Morrison's beacon had reached them all. Impossible, Valenthia whispered. They're scattered across 3 sectors. They were waiting, just in case. Waiting for what? For you to need them. The palace trembled as the ships established orbital positions. Rebel forces scattered as orbital strikes vaporized their artillery positions. Commander Thex's voice erupted across all frequencies, screaming orders that nobody followed. His army was dissolving. Morrison hauled Valenthia upright. Can you walk? Barely. Good enough. He slung her arm over his shoulders and moved toward the eastern gallery. His shoulder wound leaked blood with each step, but his pace never slowed. The dead man's switch stayed clipped to his belt, a promise he'd keep if necessary. They reached the gallery as a Venturi dropship descended through the smoke. Its medical bay doors opened before it touched ground. 2 Venturi medics rushed out, their 4 arms carrying equipment Valenthia recognized as crown stabilization gear. How did they know? She asked. Morrison eased her into their grip. I sent them your medical data 6 hours ago. They've been preparing. You had no authority. Didn't need it. Needed results. The medics worked with frightening efficiency. One attached neural suppressors to Valenthia's crown, while another established an intravenous line. The Empress felt her system stabilize almost immediately. The darkness retreated. You'll live, the lead medic said in broken Korthian. Crown damage reversible. 3 days treatment required. Valenthia stared at Morrison. You planned this, all of it, some of it. The rest was improvisation, the bluff about the explosives. That was pure jazz. A Draxi warrior emerged from the Corsair, her scales gleaming like oil-slick steel. She saluted Valenthia with a closed fist over her primary heart. Empress, we received Corporal Morrison's distress signal. We came immediately. Why? Valenthia's voice cracked. I gave you sanctuary years ago. The debt was paid. The Draxi warrior's eyes reflected something ancient. You gave us more than sanctuary. You gave us dignity when we had none. Humans understand this. They taught us the word. Honor. Pray. Morrison leaned against a pillar, finally allowing himself to show exhaustion. Blood soaked through his armor. His breathing came ragged. A Venturi medic approached him. You need treatment. Later. Secure the Empress first. Already secure. You're bleeding internally. Morrison waved her off. I've had worse Tuesdays, remember? Valenthia called out from the dropship. Morrison, get treated. That's an order. He met her eyes. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition that this moment changed everything their species thought they knew about each other. Yes, ma'am, he said quietly. The medics guided him aboard. Outside, more ships arrived. A Felnar destroyer, 2 human frigates that had broken formation and burned maximum speed to reach Korthia, a Zephyrite colony transport carrying 500 armed volunteers, species that Valenthia had aided over her reign, species that remembered. Commander Thex's rebellion collapsed within the hour. His forces surrendered when they realized they faced not just a human soldier, but an entire coalition of civilizations that refused to let Valenthia fall. Thex himself was captured attempting to flee through the sewage systems. Morrison watched through the medical bay window as Korthian citizens emerged from hiding. They stared at the alien ships with confusion that slowly transformed into something else. Shame, perhaps, or revelation. Their Empress had protected the galaxy. The galaxy was returning the favor. Your species confuses me, Valenthia said from the adjacent medical bed. The crown stabilizers hummed softly. Color was returning to her silver skin. Join the club. You had no logical reason to stay. No benefit. No guarantee of survival. Morrison turned his head to look at her. You needed someone. I was there. That's all the reason required. Most species don't think that way. Most species aren't human. She studied him with new eyes. Your people are either the bravest or the most foolish in the known universe. Why not both? Despite everything, Valenthia laughed. The sound felt foreign after so many hours of terror. The crown pulsed with something other than distress, something almost like hope. A Venturi medic approached with scan results. Corporal Morrison, you have 3 fractured ribs, a punctured lung, severe tissue damage, and approximately 1 liter of internal bleeding. Told you, typical Tuesday, you should be dead. Morrison shrugged. With his good shoulder, should's got nothing to do with it. The medic's confusion was palpable. Valenthia translated. Humans don't acknowledge should, only is. That explains much. Morrison closed his eyes as painkillers flooded his system. His last thought before unconsciousness took him was simple. She's alive. Mission accomplished. Outside, the Allied fleet established a defensive perimeter. Commander Thex was processed for trial. Korthian citizens began the slow work of understanding what had happened. And in the medical bay, an Empress and a human soldier healed side by side, protected by species who remembered kindness. Morrison woke to arguing. His translator implant filtered 3 separate languages into coherent English. None of the voices sounded happy. He opened his eyes. The medical bay had transformed into a command center. Holographic displays showed Korthia's planetary grid. Red zones marked ongoing unrest. Yellow indicated uncertain loyalty. Green was almost non-existent. Valenthia stood at the center, fully recovered, her crown blazing with restored vitality. Around her, representatives from a dozen species debated solutions. The Draxi wanted immediate military occupation. The Venturi suggested diplomatic negotiations. The humans proposed something typically insane. Corporal Morrison is awake, a medical officer announced. Every head turned. Morrison tried to sit up. His ribs screamed protest. Stay down, Valenthia ordered. What's happening? Civil war. Half my population supports Thex's ideology, even with him captured. They believe I've grown weak, too sympathetic to outside species. Morrison absorbed this. They're wrong. They're many. We're few. A human officer approached Morrison's bed, Captain Elena Vasquez, her uniform marking her as Coalition Special Operations. Morrison had worked with her on Tau Ceti. Good to see you alive, Corporal, Vasquez said. Wish I could say the same, Captain. You only show up when things get complicated. Things are extremely complicated. Vasquez activated a tactical display. Rebel cells control 40% of the major cities. They're armed with military-grade equipment. Someone's been supplying them for months. Inside job, Morrison said immediately. Obviously. But proving it requires access to Imperial records. Records that half the government refuses to release. Valenthia's expression darkened. They claim I have no authority to demand such access, that my reign ended when the shield abandoned me. Did it? Morrison asked. The room went silent. Valenthia stared at him. Did your reign end? Morrison repeated. Because from where I'm lying, you're still breathing, still commanding, still the Empress. The law requires the shield's presence to legitimize imperial authority. Then change the law. A Corthian advisor sputtered. You cannot simply change 1,000-year-old constitutional law. Morrison fixed him with a look that could freeze plasma. You can do anything if you're brave enough. Vasquez smiled. He's got a point. This is madness, another advisor protested. The people will never accept constitutional reform during crisis. The people just watched alien species defend their Empress while Corthian guards ran. Morrison said, I think they're ready for some perspective adjustment. Valenthia paced the command center. Her crown pulsed with rapid calculations. Political scenarios played out in her enhanced mind. Most ended in failure. Some ended in catastrophe. One ended in possibility. If I dissolve the shield and establish a new authority structure, I'll need support, she said slowly. Not just military. Cultural. Philosophical. You'll have it, Vasquez said. Earth stands with you. The Draxi representative nodded, as does the Draxi Confederation. One by one, the allied species pledged support. Venturi, Thelnar, Zephrite. A coalition built not on treaties but on remembered debts and genuine respect. Morrison watched Valenthia's expression shift. She was seeing it now. The path forward. Dangerous. Unprecedented. Possibly fatal. Completely necessary. I need to address my people, she said. They'll try to kill you, an advisor warned. Let them try. Vasquez pulled up planetary broadcast capabilities. We can establish secure transmission from here, reach every Corthian simultaneously. No, Valenthia said firmly. Not from safety, from the palace. In person. Morrison swung his legs off the bed. Medical equipment beeped angry warnings. Then I'm coming with you. You can barely stand. I could barely stand 6 hours ago. Didn't stop me then. A Venturi medic blocked his path. Corporal Morrison, your injuries require minimum 3 weeks recovery. Then I'll recover while walking. Vasquez handed him a fresh combat rig. Knew you'd say that. Already prepared your gear. Morrison suited up despite the pain. Each movement felt like broken glass grinding inside his chest. He ignored it. Pain was just information. Information could be dismissed. Valenthia watched him with something approaching disbelief. Your species doesn't understand limitations. We understand them fine. We just don't respect them. The transport lifted off within minutes. Escort fighters flanked them as they descended toward the ruined palace. Rebel forces had retaken surrounding districts. Weapons tracked their approach. Nobody fired. Curiosity outweighed hatred, apparently. They landed in the palace courtyard. Smoke still rose from destroyed wings. Bodies still littered the gardens. The throne room's roof had partially collapsed. Morrison limped beside Valenthia as she walked toward the makeshift broadcast platform. Every step was agony. Every breath felt insufficient. He didn't care. Korthian citizens emerged from hiding, thousands of them. Some carried weapons. Others carried nothing but questions. They formed a massive crowd that pressed against security barriers. Valenthia ascended the platform. Morrison positioned himself 2 steps behind, rifle ready. Not threatening, just present. The Empress activated the planetary broadcast. Her image appeared on every screen across Korthia. Billions watched. "My people," she began. "You have been lied to." The crowd stirred. Weapons lifted slightly. "You have been told I am weak, that I favor aliens over Korthians, that I have betrayed our heritage." Angry shouts. Morrison's hand tightened on his rifle. "These are lies," Valenthia continued, her voice carrying imperial resonance. "But I understand why you believed them. Because when danger came, your elite guards fled. Your military commanders betrayed their oaths. Your government fractured." Silence now, confusion. "Only one remained," she said. "One soldier, not Korthian, not bound by our laws or our traditions. A human, a species we barely respect." She turned, gestured to Morrison. "This man had every reason to abandon me. His contract expired. His odds of survival approached 0. Yet he stayed. He fought. He bled. And when I asked him why, he gave me an answer that changed everything I thought I understood. Valenthia's crown blazed like a star. He said everything is worth fighting for when someone needs you." The crowd held its breath. Millions watched. Valenthia's words hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. "I have ruled for 30 cycles," she continued. "I believed strength meant isolation, independence, that accepting help showed weakness. I was wrong." She swept her hand toward the Allied ships overhead. "These species owe me nothing by law, yet they came not for profit, not for territory, for something humans call honor, for something I failed to show my own people, loyalty." A Korthian citizen pushed through the barriers. Old, scarred, a veteran by his bearing. "The shield exists to protect you. Without them, you have no legitimacy." "Then I dissolved the shield," Valenthia said clearly. "Effective immediately." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Advisors behind her looked panicked. Morrison stayed motionless. "I establish new law," she continued. "Imperial protection will be earned, not inherited. Any citizen, any species who stands when others flee earns the right to defend this throne. Merit over birthright. Courage over pedigree." The veteran stared. "You would allow aliens to guard the Empress. I would allow anyone brave enough to deserve it." She pointed to Morrison. "This human earned that right. He stood alone against hundreds. He bled for a species not his own. He represents what I want Korthia to become. Not isolated, not superior, connected." Morrison shifted slightly. The movement sent lightning through his ribs. He ignored it. Another voice from the crowd, younger, angry. "Humans are weak, soft-skinned, short-lived." Valenthia smiled. "Yes, they are all those things. They are also relentless, innovative, unbreakable in ways we never imagined. This weak, soft-skinned, short-lived human held my throne room for 8 hours. How long did the shield last? Silence. Brutal. Absolute. "I am changing our constitution," Valenthia declared. "I am opening our military to allied species. I am ending the isolation that made us vulnerable. Those who oppose this may leave peacefully. Those who resist violently will face justice." The veteran dropped to one knee, slowly. Then others followed. Not everyone, not even most, but enough to matter. Commander Thex appeared on a secondary screen broadcasting from his detention cell. "You're destroying everything we built. No, Valenthia said. I'm saving it. She cut his transmission. Security forces, now mixed human and Corthian units, moved through the crowd. Arrests were made, weapons confiscated, but no bloodshed, no executions. Mercy, even now. Morrison's vision blurred, blood loss catching up. He locked his knees and stayed upright through sheer stubbornness. Valenthia concluded her address. Corthia will endure, not through supremacy, through unity. This is my decree. This is our future. The broadcast ended. The crowd dispersed, some angry, some hopeful, all confused. Morrison swayed. Vasquez caught him before he fell. Medical bay. Now, she ordered. Mission first, he mumbled. Mission's over, Corporal. You won. Valenthia descended the platform and gripped his arm. You've done enough. Morrison met her eyes. Did it work? I don't know. Ask me in a year. Might be dead in a year. Then I'll inform your corpse of the results. He laughed, regretted it immediately. Deal. They transported him back to the medical frigate. The Venturi medics sedated him properly this time. He didn't fight it. Too tired, too broken. Before darkness claimed him, he heard Valenthia's voice. Thank you, Jake Morrison. He'd never heard her use his first name before. Any time, Your Majesty, he whispered. 3 months later, Morrison stood in the rebuilt throne room. His ribs had healed. The scars remained. He wore a new uniform, one that bore both human and Corthian symbols. Valenthia approached, carrying something that looked like living metal. Her crown pulsed in harmony with it. Kneel, she commanded. Morrison obeyed. She placed the metal across his shoulders. It bonded instantly, forming armor that would mark him forever. By authority granted through blood and courage, I name you first shield of the new Imperial Guard, not because of your species, because of your character. Morrison rose. Around him, the new guard stood at attention. Humans, Corthians, none, Draxi, Venturi, a dozen species unified. Speech? Valenthia asked quietly. Not really my thing. Humor me. Morrison faced the assembled guard. We're different. Different species. Different strengths. Different weaknesses. But we share something important. We stayed when staying was stupid. We fought when fighting was hopeless. We chose loyalty over logic. He glanced at Valenthia. That's what makes us human. All of us. No matter what planet we're from. The new guard saluted as one. Outside Corthia rebuilt. Slowly, painfully, but together. The rebellion had failed. The old guard was gone. Something new was rising. Valenthia stood beside Morrison as they watched the city heal. Think it'll last? He asked. I think we'll make it last. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. Morrison smiled. Somewhere in the galaxy, humans were still considered weak, foolish, impractical. Let them think that. He knew the truth. Humanity didn't conquer through strength. They won through something simpler. They stayed.